Hello, and welcome to another SCOUTCAST brought to you by Fantasy Football Scout. As always, you're joined by me, Andy, FPL Mode, and we're also joined by Seb. Oh, no, we're not. There's no Seb tonight. He's come down with a bout of bugginess / real rank starting to go down. Rich, we are joined by you, though, my friend. How is it going?
Yeah, all good, all good. Probably better than Seb. He's not in
Yeah.
the bath tonight, although he's nearby, I hear.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's somewhere. Yeah, exactly.
Somewhere near the bath, yeah.
It's a shame, obviously, he's not here. We've now done. We did last week without him, and this week without him. We're kind of missing our third musketeer, aren't we?
We are. Are we going to run out of things to say?
Probably.
It's the same game week.
Yeah, exactly. Very true. We made sure we've got a few graphics on tonight that are going to hopefully stir some conversation. Thanks for all those people who are in the chat already. There is the England game going on at the moment against the mighty North Macedonia. So fingers crossed you get to still listen to a bit about what we're doing tonight as well. Quite a few people in the chat already. Thank you so much for joining us.
Rico Lewis almost scored.
He did.
Well,
he did almost score.
Well, he fluffed it. But
do you feel like a proud dad right now?
I'm old enough to be his dad.
Probably are. In Yeovil, you definitely are. So,
his grandfather.
Speaking of what we're going to be talking about tonight, we're going to be looking at our points from last game week, trying to refresh our memories from over a week ago. We're going to be looking at fixtures because we are getting into a time of the season now where fixture congestion is crazy. So especially December, we're going to be looking at those teams in particular that seem to be playing every 3 to 4 days and whether that should impact our transfers moving forward. We're going to be looking at a fantastic graphic by a account online called Under the Radar. We're going to be looking at a graphic from them to look at attackers and cheap attackers as well, because everybody's kind of talking about those with our midfielders being rife for choice. We're going to be looking at XGC, a table that Rich got for us, which is looking at the best defensive teams so far this season and whether that can help us pick our defenders, because they have not been fun to pick so far this season. We've got our over and unders, so we're going to be looking at 6 players that Rich is going to have to pick whether he wants to go over or under the projected points that I project them to get. We're going to look at our best teams, and we've got our community team as well. Community team is back this week. They've had their little hiatus because, they're struggling and they're worried that they're not going to be beating any of us. And they're back with a bit of a vengeance. So we're going to see how they get on as well. So let's start us off then with points for me from last week. So I had 2 free transfers. I only made 1. I got rid of Dan Burn and I got in Maguire in the end. That was a bit of an 11th hour transfer. I was thinking about getting Lascelles or Livramento. Glad I didn't. Both got 0 points. Livramento didn't even play. I got Maguire in, who got me 6 points. Very happy with 6 points. He was on for 9 points at one point, but Lindelof cleaned all those up with his goal. So I had Areola in goal with 2, Maguire with 6, Mitchell with 1. Oh, how the gods have fallen there. Cash with 2, Saka with 5, Gordon with 2, Son with 2, Salah captain with 32, Bowen with 8. He's just been so good for me, Bowen. Haaland with 6, and then Watkins with 6. But I did have a certain Greek menace on the bench, second on my bench with 15, which was Tsimikas. Obviously got himself 2 assists, 3 bonus, a clean sheet. By all accounts, it sounds like Joe Gomez was supposed to be starting, got injured, and so Tsimikas came in and played and obviously cleaned up. One of his assists was a pokey little assist to Jota before Jota whipped it round the keeper. But no, I was happy with this. 82 points, up to 342k. I'll take 342k. 4 weeks ago, I was 2.8 million. So, it's gone okay since wildcard.
And 2 transfers as well.
Yeah, and 2 free transfers. And I don't think I'll be using both free transfers this week. Obviously, Bowen is yellow flagged. I think he'll be okay from everything I've been reading, but it's worth keeping an eye on that one for sure. We'll look at my bust team later on. But like I said, 82 points. I'll very much take that.
You think he will be okay? I guess we're going to find out before the deadline.
Yeah.
But out of all of them, I feel like he's one that it could be real, couldn't it?
It could
because he got quite upset. I think Moyes commented after the World Cup, he didn't get in the squad. Yeah. And then after that happened, he just, the World Cup squad, he just didn't play very well after that. And obviously he's competing. Sterling's not even in the squad at the moment.
Yeah.
Got players like Eze coming back from injury. We've got the rise of Cole Palmer.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't think he'd pull up for nothing. I think he would want to start. Obviously, I don't know him, but...
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with him. I think we'll, like you said, I think we'll find out before the weekend how he is, if that makes sense. And I've got a feeling he'll be okay, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. The thing is, we've all got such easy outs with these midfielders. Like, if you're a Matoma owner, Mbeumo's just sitting there. If you're a Bowen owner, Mbeumo's just sitting there. You've got all these players like Eze and Palmer that are just there ready to be jumped on if you don't have them already. So I think, if anything, sometimes these little injuries that happen in midfield kind of just give you a way to move early, if that makes sense. Whereas a lot of us are holding these players because obviously we want them. Even if you really wanted to jump on West Ham's fixtures, Kudus is there as well, who looks like he's going to be playing up front with Antonio out. So there's definitely options, aren't there?
I mean, a lot of people last week, they obviously the Maddison injury cropped up, didn't it? So that gave people an easy route to Bowen or Mbeumo.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an easy route again, because that's the only thing as a Mbeumo and Palmer holder.
Yeah.
You're kind of hoping that if players do well, obviously I don't want players I don't own to do well. It's going to be harder and harder to do those. Saka's down as usual. It's going to be, it's going to put doubt in your mind, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like if you've got a move planned, like let's say Bowen to Palmer in a couple of weeks, but Bowen scores in every game before then, it makes it a lot harder to do that move.
It does, but then you get them in for the nice fixtures, and then the fixtures turn, and that's obviously
easier said than done, though, isn't it?
No, it'll be absolutely fine. I won't change my mind when I get to the week I have to move them out. Let's have a look at your points, though, because I think, what is there, about 6 points between us now?
Yeah, I mean, I got 76. We were level. Yeah. We were actually completely level before this game week, but yeah, I got 76. I actually sold Tsimikas for Livramento because I just didn't have a move to make.
Yeah.
And my plan was always to start João Pedro, who he did get 45 minutes. He came on at half time.
He did.
They almost had a penalty. He had a shot almost immediately after he came on. I think it was at about 0.12 XG. And then, there was a big penalty appeal as well for a handball. But yeah, I was quite happy. I mean, I think I've had 5 or 6 green arrows in a row. They've just been tiny, tiny little green arrows.
Yeah.
I mean, Palmer on my bench again. I seem to get bench points every single week the last few weeks, from Mbeumo or Palmer, one of the two. But yeah, I'm quite happy. As long as I'm getting little greens, I'm happy. I just feel like something's coming, like a big a big green or a big red.
Yeah.
I just can sense it. This always happens when you think it's just, it's growing quite like safe, swimmingly.
It's been very interesting, hasn't it, in terms of the Salah and Haaland captaincy. Like, a lot of us obviously captained Salah and thought, here we go. We finally, we've gone against Haaland, 16 points. Haaland's got to do an awful lot to kind of match that. And there he is. Haaland gets 16 points as well. It's been a weird couple of weeks with those two, hasn't it? And Haaland, the big one, obviously he got 16 against Chelsea, 1 against Bournemouth, and then got 16 again this week against what's supposed to be his harder opposition. It just seems like owning both of them is the priority. If you don't own Salah already, I mean, like, I know he's going to AFCON after Christmas, but you got a lot of fixtures between now and then, haven't we?
I mean, I'm sad that Seb's not on, because I think I'm really interested to see what he's going to do here.
Yeah.
What if he's going to stick to his original plan?
Because he dropped a bit with Haaland this week.
I mean, I did see his rank was about 60 or 70,000, and I think he dropped to 200,000 or 300,000 after that game. But then, I mean, when you've got over 100% of the game with a £14 million asset still to come, it's kind of unfortunate the way the game week went, as in the order of the games, because I think it's happened 2 weeks in a row now for non-Haaland owners, where Haaland's just done that. Just turn big greens into small greens, or big greens into small red arrows. Two game weeks in the last 3. I think he's done that, against United and then against Chelsea as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I would want both. I think there was definitely a period of time to go no Haaland. And those on that strategy probably know more about when they plan on buying Haaland back.
Yeah.
But I think, if you're wildcarding this week, as long as Haaland's fit, which it looks like he's going to be, I think there'd be no argument not to have him in your team. I mean, yes, they've got Liverpool and Spurs next, but they're both home games.
Yeah. And
then you go into Villa, Luton, Palace. So I think if you don't have him and you've got a route to do it, do it. I don't think funds are that stretched either right now.
Yeah. Do you feel the same about Salah as well? Because there are teams out there without Salah. Like, I'm seeing people saying, I need to take a -4 to get Salah. Do I get Salah? Do I downgrade other players to get Salah? I feel like he's also up there in terms of priorities.
Yeah, I mean, he's a weird one, isn't he? Because I guess if you've gone this long without Salah, you've then got Man City away this week, so you can probably leave it another week
this week. Yeah,
and then you've got the big, you've got the Fulham, Sheffield United, and Palace. 3 games in a week. I mean, it's the 3rd, 6th, and 9th of December.
Yeah.
So I mean, I could see more of an argument for going no Salah than no Haaland, but yeah, I'd want both. I don't think I'm sacrificing enough. All I'm really sacrificing is Trippier.
Yeah, which feels okay. Feels okay.
It feels. I mean, it's not ideal. I would like to have Trippier, but there's a bit more. With Burn being out now, is Livramento or Hall going to play? Obviously, we know this week it's going to be Livramento because Hall's suspended.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Hall's can't play against his parent club.
Yeah.
Sorry. It feels like there's a little bit more uncertainty if Trippier is going to be left back or right back, which could impact him.
Mm-hmm.
If he's playing left back, so I think there's more of an argument you can make, and the fixtures aren't incredible. Like there was that great run earlier in the season, wasn't there? But I mean, it's Chelsea and United the next two. Everton haven't been bad. Then it's Spurs. Yeah, I mean, even then, 20 and 21, they've got Liverpool and City, so the two of the hardest. So, I mean, I'd rather have Salah and Haaland than get rid of one of them so I can squeeze Trippier in.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, talk about those fixtures there, because you mentioned it a couple times. We brought up, I asked Lego Mane, he's always a complete gent, and he said we could use this graph. So these are the fixtures from now until the 30th of December, which is game week 20. Now, bear in mind, obviously, game week 19 is the last time you can use your wild card, so make sure if you haven't used it by then, you do definitely use it. And game week 20 could potentially be the double game week as well. Now, I love this because this is showing you from now until 30th of December just how many games some teams are playing. And if you look here, so the first column is 25th of November, then it's 28th of November, then the 2nd of December, then the 5th of December, then the 9th of December, then the 12th of December, then the 16th of December, then the 19th, then the 23rd, 26th, 30th. There's games every 3 to 4 days, basically. Now, there are some teams that are absolutely fine and they're just playing the normal games. So, for instance, Spurs play all of the normal FPL games, all of the normal Premier League games, and they've got nice breaks, in the middle of November, in the middle of December. Looks okay. But you've got 3 teams here that are playing every 3 to 4 days, Newcastle being one of them, and the games they've got in between their Premier League games are PSG, AC Milan and Chelsea. You've got Liverpool, who have got nicer games, I would say, and West Ham, who do have nicer games in between those Premier League games, but they are also playing every 3 to 4 games. Now, I'm looking, Flappy, the first thing I look at when I look at this, Newcastle are already ravaged at the moment with injuries. Their team just seems to be kind of on their last legs. If we look at their fixtures here, they're playing every 3 to 4 games. I keep saying that. Every 3 to 4 days now, up to the 30th of December, with really tricky fixtures in between. Because a lot of people were jumping on Newcastle assets last week. A lot of people were jumping on Lascelles, Livramento. People are talking about getting Isak in. Gordon's been very popular. I'm thinking about selling Gordon this week because I'm genuinely worried that their team is just in burnout now. And they've got so many games coming up. Tough opposition. Champions League they've never done before or haven't done for a very long time. I would be very worried investing in Newcastle right about now.
Yeah, I mean, I bought Livramento last week and I regret it. And yeah, I can't see many Newcastle players that I'd want to target right now. I mean, we just spoke about Trippier. Why I wouldn't go there. Yeah, he's quite expensive. Lascelles, we don't know what's going on with Botman. It feels like there's different news every week. I think at the moment it looks like Botman, if he doesn't get a reaction, he's gonna come back. But then if Botman comes back from a fairly medium term kind of injury, he's probably not going to play every single game, while Lascelles being able to deputise quite easily. So yeah, I mean, Newcastle don't really tempt me. I know that Wilson's out, so Isak looks like he's going to be back.
Yeah.
But is he going to play 90 minutes every single game? I don't think he will. And I think Gordon, he looks a great asset when you got him, still is, but I think there's better options.
Yeah. And you look, just looking at those fixtures, I just don't see them being able to be free-flowing scoring in those fixtures. Like Chelsea at home, then PSG away they've got in between Man United at home. Then Everton away, which is tougher than people think it is. Spurs away, which their defence is obviously a little bit mangled at the moment, but it could do all right. Then Milan at home. Fulham at home is a nice fixture in 17. But then 3 days later, they got Chelsea away in the quarterfinals of the Community Shield. Not Community Shield. Carabao Cup. So I'm just looking at those fixtures and just thinking, I'm not sure what my expectations are for them attacking wise. So for someone like Gordon, like for instance, I own Gordon, I think moving him to someone like Eze, when Crystal Palace have some really nice fixtures and have rest days in between for the next 3 weeks, I think that's not a bad little shout. And jumping on someone like Isak, he does do well when he plays, but I mean, he's got to be playing in those Champions League games. He's got to get a rest at some point, surely.
Yeah, and I mean, there's other options at striker as well. I mean, Watkins is still really viable hold. Obviously, there's these great fixtures coming up for Liverpool with like Darwin, for example. So, yeah, he just does not appeal to me at the moment, anyway.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with what he did in the double game last year. Then, yeah, you look at Newcastle, and I mean, the defenders in those home games, that's where they're really, really clutch.
Yeah.
But the next two home games are Chelsea and Man United. Say what you want about, well, Man United in particular. It's not. I'm going to say it's not an easy game. I mean, I'm not saying it's like the hardest game in the world, but it's not an easy game. Then they haven't got a home game until game week 17, and that's against Fulham. But that's planted between the quarterfinal and then the Milan as well. Then the next home game is Boxing Day, home to Forest, but that's just before they're playing Liverpool away. Yeah. Just four days later. So. Yeah, I don't feel confident it's the time to invest in Newcastle defenders. The attack, I'm not that fussed about either. I mean, Isak's just coming off an injury himself, so yeah, I can't see him playing that, every single game. And I think there's better options.
Do you agree as well? Where this does seem to be, and it seems to happen every year as well. The Christmas period is such a time of like jumping up in ranks, isn't it? Because there's so many people that forget to log in, that forgot to do it in those midweek games, and there's obviously quite a few coming up as well. And it just seems like one of those moments where if you can really be on it with the players you get in, and knowing those fixtures that are coming up and how many fixtures coming up and those players that might be rested as well, it's a really good opportunity to kind of jump up a bit in rank, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, last year we were helped because we got the unlimited free transfers, didn't we? Which was effectively a wild card, so we could sort of dead end our teams.
Yeah.
So that definitely helped. But yeah, I mean, there's so many game weeks as well. I'd hope that looking at our ranks now, 340k, 450k, we come out of Christmas higher up.
You'd hope so, wouldn't you?
That would be my hope. Otherwise, suddenly you get to after Christmas and you're in game week 20 something.
Yeah.
And you're actually starting to think about all the double game weeks at the end of the season. So I hope so, mate.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
But yeah, I mean, it's why. I mean, even last week I was looking at players like Dunk.
Yeah.
Obviously he got injured, so I wouldn't be going for him. But it was just those nailed players who are going to play, every week. For example, players like Van Dijk, for example. There's not actually that. It doesn't feel like there's that many appealing ones at the moment.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. It's Newcastle were the biggest team that I looked at in this table and thought, "Oh, that looks tough." And I just didn't think I could invest too much in them. I mean, Liverpool are the other team that play pretty much every 3 to 4 days. Now, a lot of people obviously have Darwin. People are thinking about bringing someone like Diaz in. For me, over this period, I mean, yet again, it's just screaming out rotation, isn't it, for those attacking players? And for instance, like someone like Tsimikas as well.
Was that for Liverpool? Sorry, I wasn't watching England.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. So for Liverpool, it screams rotation. These, from now until the end of Christmas, though that front four that's completely intertwined all the time and constantly rotating, players like Tsimikas as well, could be tough. But the fixtures are nice between 14 and 16.
Sorry, Andy. But yeah. I mean, it's kind of annoying that the really good fixtures for Liverpool are that game week 14, 15, 16.
Yeah.
That are in, all between, it's the 2nd, the 5th, and the 9th of December.
Yeah.
Because, that's where I'd want to go. And as a non-Tsimikas owner, I'm now thinking, do I bother going back there? Because, it could be incredibly painful to not go there because he seems like, if he's nailed, he's an obvious pick.
Yeah.
He's an absolute gift. I mean, he's not quite Andrew Robertson, levels of minutes. I mean, I guess we haven't got a long sample size on him. For his, XGI, for example. But Robertson was doing okay there, doing okay with bonus as well. So no, I mean, I have been thinking Watkins to Darwin. There might be some people thinking about that, but then Watkins is one of those players that is going to play every single game. So no, I'm low on quite a lot of teams at the moment.
So what about if you were to say then, so for instance, a team like Bournemouth, who don't have all those midweek fixtures in terms of, they've got 3 less fixtures than, for instance, Newcastle or Liverpool in the next 5 to 6 game weeks. They've got 3 less fixtures to have to worry about. What if you wanted to move from Watkins to, say, like Solanke? He's got nice fixtures. He's got on penalties, although Bournemouth don't get penalties. He's got Luton at home in game week 17. You know he's going to be playing every game, every minute. What would you... And this doesn't have to be just him, by the way. If people are thinking about making a move like that, would that be a good move over the Christmas period when you know he is 100% nailed on and you can play him in any game?
So I was pretty sure I'd sell Solanke round about now. Not Solanke, Watkins round about now. I just don't think I would. I'd rather have Watkins than Solanke, despite the penalty thing, because they're both going to have good minutes.
Yeah.
And I don't see where you'd spend the money. I mean, maybe if you've got some genius idea with the money, then it possibly is worth it. Because the good thing about Watkins, he's the second most expensive striker, so you could literally go anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's why another reason I don't really mind holding him, because you could literally at any point you could be like, oh, I need to move to this striker for this game, because something might crop over Christmas where you're like, Darwin is going to be absolutely nailed for the next 2. Let's say there's some scenario that at least you can hop off Watkins. What if you've gone to Solanke and then you're 2 moves away from that? So I don't really like it.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, last thing then, before we move off of, so you can have a quick another look at Rico.
Watkins just had a shot, but he's offside.
Before we move off the fixtures then, and a few people have mentioned this in the chat as well, is this the best opportunity, or do you need to make sure that your bench has playing players on it during this Christmas period?
Yeah, and that's why I'm gutted about Livramento.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think goalkeeper is really going to matter. People who've got like Taylor. I think that's going to be all right. But yeah, the rest of it, I mean, I do want nailed players, even if it's just nailed centre back. Like for example, Maguire, he looks very, very nailed. The fixtures aren't quite as good.
Yeah.
But at least it's a playing first sub, and there's a couple of good fixtures in there, and you can rotate him in and out. So I'm just thinking of players like that. That's why someone like Dunk appealed to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think getting nailed defenders on your bench is a pretty good start.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Archer's popular for a reason, because he's pretty. I mean, he did miss a game, didn't he? But he's going to pretty much start every week based on what we've seen so far. I mean, even someone like Pedro. I mean, I'm not saying to bring him in, but if you've got him, he's going to at least appear. Whether it's 30 minutes or it's 60 minutes.
Sort your bench out. Get nailed players. Rich, Pedro.
I'm just going to say I wouldn't buy him. But if you've got him, at least he plays. He's better than someone that's on loan to Colchester or something like that. Because I've seen that on some people's bench, for example. I won't name any names.
Yeah.
Who else? I was also going to say
now.
actually. I mean, someone like Carlton Morris he's 5.3 now.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't want to start him like very, very often. But again, 5.3 for a nailed-on player who takes penalties, admittedly for Luton. I think that's not a bad option either.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I think I'd rather Pedro actually, but we'll see. Especially with their fixtures coming up. But like you said, it's always tricky with him. We got over 300 people watching. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you do like the stream. We got 300 people watching and 35 likes. Benjamin Walsh says, just know, guys, we have all missed Scoutcast. Best FPL content out there. Thank you so much. Speaking of fantastic content, we've got a lovely little graphic here from Under the Radar. So FPL Under the Radar, make sure you give them a follow on Twitter because they are fantastic. The graphics they bring out on a weekly basis are awesome, and they've just literally brought out some other new ones as well. They're really, really good. So this is showing attacker expected points at different prices. So basically, the higher up this graphic you are, the better you are in terms of your expected points per 90 minutes. And the further you are to the right, the cheaper you are. Now, the player that is furthest up this list is Palmer. So Cole Palmer is the furthest point up on this list, almost 9 expected points per 90 minutes. And he's also the furthest to the right as well. So he's also the cheapest. I mean, Flappy, you got Palmer in weeks ago. And I'm not going to lie, all I've been thinking about is when I'm going to be bringing him in 16. But he just looks above and beyond. Basically, the gift of the season, isn't he?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess there's an argument some people have used that obviously he's got 4 penalties in like 5 games.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, obviously is unsustainable. You've got teams like you mentioned Bournemouth, for example. They've not had a penalty since they got in the Premier League, since the start of last season. But yeah, his stats, even without the penalties, look really, really good. Mm-hmm. His minutes look really, really good. The fact he scored 4 penalties just makes you think that he's absolutely nailed on.
Yeah.
Even with like Nkunku coming back. So yeah, I mean, I do think he is an absolute gift. And I mean, I've seen people say, and rightly so, the fixtures aren't good yet. Mm-hmm. But I think actually after this Newcastle game, I think the fixtures are incredible. I think it's Brighton and Man United. And then the good run begins. But yeah, I think now's a good time to get him in.
Yeah. I mean, I've been looking at 16. That's what I've been looking at the whole time, because obviously their fixtures are absolutely lovely from game week 16 onwards. But like you said, I think Palmer looks absolutely nailed. And if you've got a player that... Go on, what's happened?
No, they missed a penalty and then the rebound went in. Rico Lewis gave away a penalty.
Oh, dear.
Sorry.
Not such a proud dad moment. But I think, like you've already just said there, if you had to get him in now, so for instance, if you had a player that was injured or, is got out of favour, whatever it is, just bringing Palmer in now, knowing that you're going to get all the price changes, because he's going to be going up before 16, because people are just going to be knocking all over him, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's mad, isn't it, how quickly he's gone up? But I guess having that many penalties it's going to help.
Yeah.
But I think it is interesting when you take those penalties away, because something that causes a bandwagon is obviously points. And historically, that was a lot worse. But the fact he's got pretty good underlying XG data anyway.
Yeah.
On top of that. And I mean, even things like, I know they played against 9 men when they played against Spurs, but that Palmer assist, admittedly against the high line of Spurs with 9 men, was actually incredible. Like, I own Palmer and didn't realise he'd got the assist. That's how, how deep he was when he played that ball through to Jackson for his hat-trick.
Yeah. No, he's looked incredibly good. And it's the fact he's on pens as well. I mean...
I'm prioritising Mbeumo over him, though.
Well, 2 other players that are slightly lower than Palmer on this list are Wilson and Isak. Now, they're slightly more on the left of this graphic because they're higher in price. We've just heard, obviously, Wilson is going to be out for 6 or 7 weeks. Isak looks like he's going to be leading the line. When he doesn't, Gordon's playing there. But Isak, we've mentioned him a little bit already. Would you be tempted at any point to kind of go 3-4-3 and try and maybe have Haaland, Watkins, Isak, for instance?
I've thought about going like a proper 3-4-3, as in a non-Pedro 3-4-3.
Yeah.
I just can't get away from how many good midfielders there are.
Yeah.
Like, even with the crop of midfielders I've got now, I haven't got Eze, I haven't got Bowen. Sterling, I think he's going to become popular again in a few weeks. But yeah, I think there's just too many good midfielders for me.
Yeah.
And the fact that we've got so many midfielders on penalties, like it always used to be, obviously the forwards are on penalties, but there's just more and more midfielders now. We haven't been blessed with any defenders yet, but no, I think that's the reason I wouldn't go for 3-4-3 myself. Even though I did see, I can't remember if it's the person who was top was on a 3-4-3. I'd need to look into that more, but there's obviously been some good 3-4-3 teams out there, as long as they don't have like Jackson or something.
Yeah. Well, you've just mentioned there, like the midfielders just look like absolute bargains this season. And Mbeumo and Eze are both there. Bowen's there, Saka's there, Son's there. If you're looking at this table and looking at if you were wildcarding this week, who would be your 5 in midfield? Because Salah isn't on this because obviously he costs way too much, and he's not on it because he costs more than this. But if you had to pick your midfield 5, picking it now, knowing the fixtures that are coming up, who would your 5 be?
This is going to sound really biased.
Is it your 5?
So I've definitely gone early on a couple of players like Palmer and Mbeumo before their fixtures got good. But I mean, looking at my future plans over Christmas, I'm not going to change my midfielders at all. And I know there's going to be arguments that Bowen and Eze should be included in there, and that's fair enough. People might have more transfer value than me, so maybe not my 5 actually. But Mbeumo, Saka, Salah, Son. Then I suppose you could argue someone like Eze over Palmer till the fixtures, get better for Chelsea. So actually, they'd probably be the 5. I probably wouldn't have Palmer if I didn't have him already. I probably could wait for that. So yeah, Mbeumo, Saka, Salah, Son. Eze. So you've got 5 penalty takers.
Yeah. You can, though. You can have those 5 penalty takers, have them for the nice fixtures, and then move one out for another penalty taker, which is absolutely
the only
mental.
argument against, sorry to switch to strikers, but it's the only argument against Watkins. The fact you could literally have your entire front, you could have your front 8 on penalties.
Yeah.
And rotate them in and out. I mean, it's probably a painful way to do it, but you can do it. And you can do it with ease.
It's interesting you mentioned Son as well, because you had no hesitation that Son was in there. With everything going on with Spurs, and with Maddison obviously being injured as well, their defence struggling so much, Son is on pens, but he is the one player in my midfield that I've been like, he could be my cash cow. He's the only one I've really got that could be a cash cow if I wanted to move someone down to move someone else up. A lot of people are saying the only way to get the Salah is to lose Son. Would you say Son is kind of essential in those teams moving forward, or is he somebody you can get rid of?
It's probably a bit like Watkins, actually. Like, yeah, if you've got something you want to do with the money and you like it, I mean, I really don't hate it. I would just like to have Son, because as simple as it sounds, he looks like he's over his fitness issues. So you imagine he's going to play every single game. You hope he's back to playing 90 minutes every single week as well. Mm-hmm. Like you said, they've got more gaps in fixtures than other teams. Yeah, again, he ticks that penalty box. I would need something really clever to do with the money to bother doing it, because you know what happens with Son? He's capable of huge hauls.
Yeah.
And if you've not got him in, then you're going to have to find a way to get him or just ignore him completely. I just don't see the need. I think I've mentioned it before. My team value is awful.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm willing to go without Trippier, I can afford literally the 2 most expensive strikers in the game and 5 midfielders I'm very, very happy with.
Yeah.
It's literally just going without Trippier. I mean, I think the only defenders who are premium who are probably worth it is probably Van Dijk over Christmas. And Trippier potentially. But they're the only premium ones I think are worth it. I mean, you've got Reece James at 5.3. That's not premium.
No, true. Yeah, and I think he's going to start slipping into a few teams as well. Gordon's another player here who's just below the average line. Now, Gordon's obviously done very well, especially the last kind of 3-4 weeks. He's played up front at times as well because of their injury crisis. Newcastle, we've mentioned already so far tonight, really struggling with injuries, struggling to kind of keep their team together at the moment. Even talk about Howe losing his job, which seems crazy to me, but there you go. I think he's second. I think he's second most likely second most likely manager to lose their job based on bookies at the moment. Which just seems crazy. But Gordon's obviously below this average line here. If you could move Gordon now to another midfielder, say an Eze, or if you could, have the funds, you could move up to Mbeumo, would you do it? Because I'm looking at doing it, because I'm thinking, I've just said, I've got real worries about their team moving forward with all the fixtures, with Champions League games, really tough Champions League games. And I just feel like that's a move that would make an awful lot of sense.
To Eze,
for instance, to Eze, or if you could upgrade him to Mbeumo this week, or even like a Diaby with their fixtures. I don't know.
If I could get into Mbeumo now, I think I would do it. Like, I think I would. I don't know if you can afford that at the moment. I think going to Eze. I mean, we talked about it last week, didn't we? Eze feels. I know he's got some good fixtures in a row. Feels a lot more short term. I feel like long term you're going to want Mbeumo and Palmer.
But then I suppose
I say long term. I mean, obviously there's a double for Brentford, and then he's off to AFCON. But
yeah, true. But like Eze, nice fixtures till 15, and then in 16, Palmer's nice fixtures start.
So it just depends. I mean, again, if you're happy with all your defenders and stuff, because you just don't want to book in too many transfers over this Christmas period, because we're going to be using transfers fast.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to be using several transfers a week, literally, which is, so I'd like to have 2 free transfers every single week if I can.
Yeah. And I suppose a lot of it is, if people own Bowen and Bowen is injured, what are we going to do there? Saka's probably going to get injured tonight as well. So we're all going to have moves we're going to make. I
think the main thing with this season compared to previous seasons, especially ones in the past, is I felt like most weeks you're going to have bad players in your team, because you couldn't afford everyone. Mm-hmm. I feel like this season I think you couldn't have a bad team. Like, without some severe mismanagement. I mean, I think this game week's different because the fixtures are bad. I think it's hard to have a bad team. I mean, if you've got Gordon and I've got Palmer, and someone else has got Eze, like Seb's got Eze. They're not that far apart, really, are they? I guess it's just the one thing with Gordon is he hasn't got penalties.
Thing is, though, you just mentioned mismanagement. There's a manager out there, I've heard, there's a rumour, that got 11 points one week and then the next week accidentally plays bench boost. So there are people mismanaging their teams. I can't remember what his name is. He's not.
I don't read the newspapers myself.
No, exactly. I think it was in the Daily Star, actually. Yeah. So there are those players out there. There's those managers out there that will mismanage their teams. So it's it's bless him.
Going for crazy chip strategies.
Love you as. Well, you were just mentioning there as well about these are all these attacking players that we're looking at making these transfers to try and get, but defensively, it's been an absolute nightmare this year trying to invest in defenders. Goalkeepers especially. I've had one goalkeeper return in 12 game weeks, and that was Turner in like game week 7, I think it was.
I think I've had the same.
Yeah, I've had none since then. Well, that's the only one I've had. But we've got up here, you brought up the XG conceded table for this year. Just talk us through, for those people listening on the pod, who we got at the top, who's looking like they're actually can, keep clean sheets. But obviously this isn't saying they're keeping clean sheets, it's just saying that they're not conceding XG.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the most advanced table, but I went in the members area, and to be honest, it's very easy to pull data like this in the members area. But, I mean, Arsenal are a clear top. So this is, like you said, over the season. Arsenal have got an XG conceded of 9.37. So obviously having a low number is better than having a high number if you want your players to get clean sheets. So Arsenal are a clear top here, 9.37. Also interesting to say, after this game week, the next 2 game weeks, they're favourites to keep a clean sheet as well. So I think that's why people are bringing in Arsenal defenders and have been looking at Arsenal defenders. They're ahead of City. City is in second, 11.20. And then you go back to Newcastle, 13.33 in third place. Then it's all kind of bunched up. I mean, Liverpool are fourth, 14.6. Then it's Chelsea and Everton. Then Villa, Brentford, and then Palace, surprisingly, just ahead of Brighton, for example. So obviously there's been a lot of talk about Palace being good defensively, but they're not that different from their rivals, Brighton. Just Brighton haven't kept a clean sheet. And then, I mean, Spurs and United, they're much lower than you expect, especially Spurs, because they've had incredible fixtures.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much it was affected with, with that Chelsea game, for example, but I mean, I do look at this most weeks, and Tottenham have not been formidable defensively, and I don't think that's going to improve either.
I mean, I almost think we were talking a little bit before we streamed, saying that we're wondering whether the extra minutes that we're seeing in every game at the end of the half and end of the 90 as well is starting to have a real impact on clean sheets, because trying to get players that keep clean sheets just seems ridiculous at the moment. And obviously we're investing an awful lot in players that have upside elsewhere, but we're not spending the budget on defence because, midfield and attack is where it all is. This is kind of what it used to be like in FPL, isn't it? When you think 6, 7, 8 years ago, it was spend as little as you can on defence so you could spend as much money on midfield and attack. It seems like we're going back to that, doesn't it?
So when I first started playing FPL, what was that, over 10 years ago now, I remember you just, like you say, you used to pick cheap defenders. I'd use the Scout fixture ticker to rotate defenders as well. And I feel like, you're right. That's exactly what we're doing again at the moment. You've got players like Maguire, Taylor, whoever. You had Colwell for a while, and you're just, rotating them in and out.
Yeah.
But then I think there is also an argument because of just, go back to Arsenal being up there, above Man City at the moment anyway. They look a lot more defensively sound this season. Maybe not as good going forward, but they've got a good set of fixtures coming up. So I do think having an Arsenal defender or 2, that could fill 2 of your spots, at least for the next few weeks. And then you just have to rotate the other one, potentially.
Yeah, I do completely agree with you. I think an Arsenal defender would be my priority. Not this week. I don't think necessarily this week, but I think after this week, definitely. I do think you'd be surprised. I think Chelsea defenders are going to start creeping into teams.
Agree.
Reece James has said he's the best he's ever felt. I know he's an injury thing, but when he's playing, he is fantastic. And for 5.3, I think it could start creeping into teams from game week 16 onwards.
I mean, I think the last few weeks, Man United defenders have obviously done well because they've had good fixtures. I think we're going to see Arsenal do well because not only do they have good fixtures, but they've got a good defence as well. And exactly what you say there. Then I think we will be looking at the Chelsea defenders. Maybe it's Reece James. Maybe it's Thiago Silva. I don't know. Maybe Cole will be back and get his team get his name back on the team sheet. Although I don't know, because maybe Cucurella will continue to play.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think going for Arsenal now and then looking at Chelsea, a nailed Chelsea defender.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could be the way to go, and it's just going to be playing the fixtures.
Yeah, big time. Which is what we've done all year. This seems to be that year. It's chase the fixtures, jump on good players to another good player, isn't it?
Well, we don't have previous seasons we've just had Trent and Robertson, Cancelo, whoever, and you've just played them stubbornly. You've just played them every week.
Yeah.
Even if they got City away, you just play them because they're that big name. But we don't have any players like that at the moment. There was Trippier for a while.
Mm-hmm.
That's gone off the boil a little bit. Maybe that is still the play. And the last, he did get a 9-pointer 2 weeks ago against Arsenal. But maybe the last, 3 have just been, a little bit unlucky for Trippier owners, and maybe they're going to bounce back, and he's going to get 7 to 10 points every week.
Yeah,
7 to 10 plus points every week. But
so basically, what we're saying then is Arsenal defender, at least one, and then just fill your team up with those 4.5 to 4 million defenders from teams that seem to be in the top half of this table. Like for instance, Crystal Palace defender, Villa defender, although cash has been extremely annoying to own, and just try and fill them up with those kind of players.
I think so. The only difficulty with Arsenal defenders is obviously Gabriel a lot bought in, but he's not been 100% nailed. Probably nearer 85% nailed. Saliba is obviously shooting up in price now because he's nailed.
Yeah.
Ben White had a knock. I don't know if there's been any updates on that. That might bring Tomiyasu into play. I'm really not sure there.
Yeah.
Zinchenko, he's obviously been a rotation risk. Maybe the White injury changes that, but it's actually quite hard picking two.
Yeah.
And even when you look at Raya, obviously Raya can't play this week.
Yeah.
Because Arsenal are playing Brentford.
Yeah. It's really tough. And then you start looking at teams like Wolves, Fulham, teams that have, nice fixtures moving forward. Burnley don't have that bad of fixtures. And obviously, Charlie Taylor's there too. So you start really getting into the dregs a little bit then. A lot of people have mentioned players like Soufal. I was tempted to go with someone like Soufal a week ago, but I was just looking in West Ham. I was like, I don't trust West Ham defensively, and I don't want Areola and Soufal. So it just, it seems tough picking players. So I think just make sure you pick cheap players. You're not missing out on players that other people are owning that are getting clean sheets, because that's just not happening this season. So just make sure you're using your money in midfield and attack.
Like you say, the fixtures do seem to be king because, once again, Spurs and Man United, they're 19 basically expected goals conceded. It's not actually that much better than Fulham or West Ham or Burnley, for example.
Yeah.
So...
Well,
and they've kept clean sheets when they've had good fixtures. So I think the point is fixtures are what create.
I think you've stretched that a little bit. If you look,
in what way?
They're 3 XG conceded better than Fulham, West Ham, and if you took that the other way, they'd comfortably be 6th or 7th in the table. So they'd
be a bit better than Brighton or Forest.
No, then stop it.
You can't lie with statistics. Obviously, there's stuff to take into. And an interesting one here is Everton. Look how high they are. And I know they had an incredible run to start the season, but it's been a bit harder recently, and they're still up there. They've got, they're not far off Chelsea, 15.97, better than Crystal Palace.
And Chelsea have been good. Chelsea have been good.
They're not. They're pretty much neck and neck with Liverpool.
Yeah.
Which is impressive, because I know it's not Liverpool of old, but
interesting to say, by the way, that obviously Sheffield United, Luton and Bournemouth are the 3 teams that are comfortably at the bottom there. Sheffield United obviously didn't help. They got beaten 8-0 as well by Newcastle.
I can't remember what the XG was in that game. I feel like it was 3 or something like that. Although,
Right, let's have a look at some over-unders then. Now, obviously, normally we pick you against Seb, but we're just going to do you this week, Rich. So, first up, we got Bowen. So, we've got Bowen at 14.5 points. I projected him. He's got Burnley away, Crystal Palace at home, and then Spurs away. 3 nice fixtures. Obviously, we don't know whether he's going to be completely fit, but let's just pretend he's going to be. 14.5, what do you think?
So if we pretend he's definitely fit...
Sorry, I probably shouldn't have said that. Based on the information we know so far, do you think 14.5?
So I'm predicting an injury as well. Because I know what I said earlier. I felt like out of the list of players, he's probably the one where I'd be keeping an eye on it more. I do think he'll play. If you put a gun to my head, I don't know why you'll do that.
He's
I'll
like
be like,
Saka.
Bowen will
He
play. Just
basically
calm
plays
down.
unless he's lost a leg, doesn't he?
Yeah, so I could see. I'm gonna go under. I'm gonna go under. That is a
Under
nice fixture
14.5.
though, away to Burnley.
It is, really is. Next up, Dominic Solanke. Like I said, he's been in a few people's thoughts recently, mine as well. Sheffield United away, Aston Villa at home, Crystal Palace away, remembering that Villa are a lot different away from home than they are at home. 12.5 I've given him here. What do you think? Tough one.
I don't know if I'm messed up here on Bowen now. I feel like Solanke's an easy over, but I still wouldn't bring. But then that's a bit offensive to Bowen. I'm going to go over for Solanke.
Yeah.
I feel like if he scores, that's going to be a 9-pointer. He's going to score against Sheffield United. That's 9. And then he easily hits it.
Okay. Next up, a player that has been being brought in an awful lot this week, Mykolenko for Everton. He's got Man United at home, Forest away, Newcastle at home. I've given him 9.5 as his projected points. I think has he scored in the last 2 weeks, hasn't he?
Scored 2 in a row.
Yeah. What do you think? I mean, he's not going to score 3.
The XGC is not bad.
The XG.
So the XGC for Everton, as in they're pretty good defensively.
I thought you meant his XG stats were good. I was like, oh, hang on.
No. But what's funny here is probably the best fixture is that Man United at home, because then it's Forest away. Honestly, I'm not saying this to wind you up, but that's the one I'm looking at. Like, he just needs to keep a clean sheet there. I mean, he should get 6 just for appearance. I know you can get minus points. I'm going to go over.
I like it.
I wouldn't be bringing him in.
I don't think. 4.5 million defender. Next up is Zinchenko. He's got Brentford away, Wolves at home, Luton away. I've given him 12.5. Scored an absolute screamer of a goal at the weekend. And obviously started as well. What do we think? He's looking very tanned in that picture.
I feel like we need to know more about injuries. A lot of these players, it depends. Well, Bowen and him, it does depend. If Ben White's out, for example, does his chance of playing go up?
Yeah.
Probably. But then if he starts both in the clean sheets in both, I'm going to go under.
Okay. Under 12.5. 12.5 I've given for Raheem Sterling up next, who's been playing really well recently. Newcastle away, Brighton at home, Man United away. Tough fixtures, apart from that Brighton one in the middle, maybe. 12.5, what do you think?
Yeah, the second and third look all right.
Stop it.
I'm starting to regret. I'm starting to regret the Bowen one.
Oh.
I am really starting to regret that Bowen one. Sterling, I'm going over.
So are you going over for Bowen then, are you?
I don't know. I'm going over for Sterling.
Okay.
Well, the Bowen thing is clouded. What's clouded is, let's say he's not injured, I'll go over for Bowen.
Yeah, easy.
But I don't feel like it's a big over, even if he plays all 3.
Last one, though, we've got Ollie Watkins. 14.5 I've given him here. He's got Spurs away, Bournemouth away, and then Man City at home. So remembering again, we've said all season, Villa are very different away from home than they are at home. Spurs away, Bournemouth away, Man City at home. What do you think? 14.5.
Yeah, I'm going under.
So...
And I'm holding on to him.
You've gone over for Solanke, under for Watkins, but you would not move Watkins to Solanke.
What are the fixtures after Man City?
I can't remember off the top of my head. He's got a nice one, I think, hasn't he? He's got a nice one in 17.
I just think it's the transfer as well. If I was wildcarding, maybe I'd look at a completely different strategy or different structure.
Yeah.
I mean, it is Arsenal at home. Yeah, maybe the fixtures aren't that great. Because the home fixtures in the next 5 for Villa are City and Arsenal.
Yeah. I know.
And there's no penalties. Maybe I need to rethink this. But I wouldn't go Solanke, even though I think he gets over.
Why? I think he does all right.
Oh, you got me thinking here now.
Yeah.
All right, but let's say I'm going over for Solanke because I think he's going to get 13 points, for example.
Right.
And I don't think Watkins is going to go over 14.5. I think he might get 13 as well.
Yeah.
So let's say they both get 13. What's the point of me selling Watkins
agree.
to go for the same points just so I can do a Solanke gif and be like, yeah.
And I mean, Watkins, Spurs away, that could easily be a couple of points. We're saying Villa aren't very good away. That does not mean that Watkins won't score points away from home. We're just saying that Villa might not win the game, but that's not what we're after, is it? We're after, the potential for Watkins to get a few points.
I mean, they don't look as good attacking away from home as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying Solanke, I think he's going to outscore Watkins. I just think they're going to be quite close.
Yeah. It's interesting. I genuinely think that Solanke move could, do quite well. But like you said, it's not exactly like we are saying we're going to do that so we can fund something else.
You could well be right, but there's also something about that move where, let's say, I went for Carlton Morris, didn't I, in his double, and I think Solanke's in a much better team than Carlton Morris, was slightly better team. After the double, I never felt like Carlton Morris was going to score. Actually, a couple of weeks where I just started him, I was like, what's the point? And I don't feel like Solanke's that much above it. I mean, it's still a cheap striker on penalties is good, but I'm not struggling for money.
And also,
I'm not confident he's gonna, he's not gonna outscore Watkins by 6-7 points. And I'm like, I shouldn't, I want my transfers to be worthwhile.
Where'd you go? Oh, there we go. Sorry, my screen went off then. And also, we've mentioned this about Solanke loads of times about him being on pens. But remember, they don't get pens. It's been 2 years since Bournemouth have got a pen. So, yes, that doesn't mean he's not going to get one the next game. But they don't seem to get them an awful lot. But, it's an interesting one to look at. And I think there's some interesting moves that people are going to be making moving forward. Looking at my bus team now then. So we're going to be moving on to bus teams now. My bus team at the moment is Areola in goal, Maguire, Mitchell and Cash in defence, all playing away. Ugh. This was always going to happen. Last week, everybody was at home. Then I've got Saka, Gordon, Son, Salah and Bowen. Salah is my captain at the moment, but it will be Haaland. Haaland and Watkins up top, with Archer, Tsimikas and Taylor on the bench. I'm not liking this week at all. I'm not liking this week at all. I do think, so I've got 2 free transfers, so I've got to make a transfer. And at the moment, I think I'm most likely going to be doing Gordon to Eze. That's what I'm most likely going to do at the moment, I think. I think I looked at Watkins to Solanke, but I think my priority next week will be to move and Mbeumo in. My screen keeps going for some reason. Is to get Saliba in and Mbeumo in next week. So yeah, I think that's probably what I'm going to use my 3 transfers up in the next 2 weeks. And I don't think Watkins to Solanke would help me much when I want to get Saliba and Mbeumo in next week. So I feel like that's probably the way I'm going to go.
It's annoying recently where we've had 2 free transfers and it's hard to use them.
Yeah.
And I do like the Gordon to Eze move. I just think it means I feel like you're going to come off Eze quite. How are you going to get to Mbeumo then? Sorry, did you say that?
Bowen to Mbeumo.
It'd be Bowen to Mbeumo. So you'll be losing Bowen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
I've got to have Mbeumo.
And then you wait for Palmer, I guess, which will then free up funds in a few weeks' time when you do that move.
Yeah. So Eze will be moved to Palmer. So I'll have Eze for 3 weeks and then Palmer in 16, basically.
Are you happy? Because your strikers look fine. Haaland, Watkins, Archer. That seems fine.
Yeah.
I guess it's just a case of when or if you're going to change defenders. Are you just going to keep Cash through to like 18 now?
Well, Saliba's got to come in for someone, so it'll probably be Cash to Saliba.
Okay, yeah, you did say that. Yeah, I like it. Our teams are going to be very similar. You wildcarded in 8, I wildcarded in 10. They're going to slowly get closer and closer together.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, unless other things crop up, which they probably will, my team, apart from my defence, is then pretty much set, apart from when we get to the blank game week. So, it feels okay. It feels like that's kind of the natural route I was going down anyway, and this is obviously what I've been planning for the last couple of weeks. So, yeah, it feels okay. Rich, looking at your bus team, just talk us through it.
That's a great goal. Saka just set up Grealish.
Nice.
My team. I'm waiting for my team to load as well because it's not. Actually, I probably should know my team off by heart. I'm gonna have to kill some time till it loads. Here we go. So I've done my transfer already.
Oh.
Because I had 2 transfers and I had the exact money to do Cash to Saliba, which, to be honest, I should have done last week. But part of that's hindsight now. So I've done Cash to Saliba. So I've got no money in the bank, 1 free transfer. So I've got Areola in goal. Starting Livramento at home to Chelsea at the moment. It's between him and Maguire because Maguire's away at Everton. Livramento at home to Chelsea. And like we said, Hall can't play. So it looks likely that Livramento is going to actually start this one, which was part of the reason I decided to go for him. Then I got Gabriel and Saliba, which I'm happy with, for the next 2 or 3 weeks at least. Maybe a bit longer. Like, going to just play them. It's not that exciting, but it would do. I've got Mbeumo, Saka, Salah and Son. Then I've got Haaland captain, Watkins, and at the moment I am starting Pedro. There's been a couple of injuries, hasn't there? Like Matoma's injured. Yeah. Ferguson's got injured. Obviously, I need to. I'm not going to stay up and watch the Brazil game in the middle of the night, but let's see, because Vinicius is injured, so maybe Pedro starts for Brazil. But there could be a chance Pedro starts, but more likely I could just start Cole Palmer away at Newcastle. But because I mean, Forest aren't that bad, especially at home.
Yeah, exactly.
Brighton haven't looked great. Do I want to jet lag Pedro when I could just start Palmer? Not sure. So I've got a couple of dilemmas. Haaland captain seems quite easy. I don't think I'm going to use my second transfer.
I think I'd play Palmer there personally.
I see. I did have it until earlier, and then I just thought I'd try Pedro in there.
And look at
Palmer away at Newcastle seems good as well. It's hard to get it right when you've got 8 attackers.
Yeah. No, I do like it. It's like you've got so many penalty takers. It's ridiculous. But I do like it. I just can't wait to watch. I just can't wait to watch Mbeumo knock out your double clean sheet.
Well, this is one of the funny things, and I actually thought of this earlier in the break, and I'd actually forgotten about it. That yes, I do have Mbeumo.
Yeah.
And it's against my double Arsenal, but mainly I want those Arsenal win. I wouldn't have been able to afford Saliba if I waited. So I'm happy with them for the 2 game weeks after. If Mbeumo scores, I'm happy. Even though I potentially lose 2 clean sheets, hopefully Gabriel and Saliba both start. So I'm not too fussed about that. And then obviously if I play Palmer, he's against Livramento.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one there. But I think something key about this week is it's a really they disallowed the goal. It's just a really bad game week, as in the fixtures are not set up nicely for teams that we want long term. So I think just get through it. I mean, I'm a little bit worried about this game week. Not having players like Bowen I prefer my midfielders long term, or even after this game week. But this game week, it doesn't feel like it's not the perfect free hit kind of team, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. Right, let's have a look at the community team. So the community team did really well this week. They got 77 points. They had Areola in goal with 2, Cash with 2, Gahey with 1, Gabriel with 2, Diaby with 6, Salah with 16, Mitoma with 1, Son with 2, Bowen with 8, Alvarez with 5, and Haaland with 32 as their captain. They also benched Tsimikas as well, so that would have propelled them up otherwise. They had a green arrow from 564k to 477k. They've got 2 free transfers. They sold Burn to Gabriel and Maddison to Bowen. So they didn't do too bad with their transfers, I wouldn't say, but they got 1 free transfer to use this week. They are currently, what did I say they were? Are they below you? You said
470k?
Yeah, 477k. So they must be like a point behind you, Rich.
Yeah, must be. Yeah, 450k. Yeah, it's crazy. I know people say it a lot, but the gap's really small. I mean, you're 7 points ahead of me, and you're 110,000.
Yeah.
Places. That's like a Mitchell goal with bonus.
6 points, I think. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's Mitchell, exactly. So yeah, I feel like they're in a good place. I feel like there's not a lot difference between a lot of our teams. Obviously, Mitoma is something they're going to have to work on this week. Whether they move straight to Mbeumo this week, which they might do.
What's their forfeit if we beat them?
That's a good question, actually. We need to think of something, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Back to our main screen now. We'll have a bit of a Q&A for the last 2 to 3 minutes, and then Flappy can watch Rico Lewis in peace. So chuck us in some questions if you've got some.
Weird.
It does, yeah. And we will literally, Rich, I'm going to be watching you. We're going to answer these as quickly as possible.
Okay.
All right? None of this, it's team dependent. No, quickly as possible. All right?
Yeah, but then if I answer it too quickly, you'll be telling me to elaborate a little bit more.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'd never do that.
I'll just answer. Watch me.
Flimmy Joyed Basselhank says, Bowen has returned in every away game so far. Would you really be selling before Burnley away?
If he's injured, otherwise no.
Yeah. Mario Rodriguez, what a name, love it. Says, what are your thoughts on Castagna?
I did actually look at him, or just any Fulham defender. They can rotate well.
Yeah.
I can't say it's team dependent, but I mean, look at the rotations. Have a play around on a plan at all, because it could work. They got some nice home games.
Yeah, the 3 nice home games are the thing. Jacob Hull says, Mbeumo or Palmer this week if you had to choose?
Mbeumo, like hands down. I know Arsenal are the best defence, but it's at home.
Yeah. Raphael says, injury updates. The only one I know for certain is Mitoma won't be playing this weekend by the sounds of it. So obviously if you got him, you need to get rid of him. But apart from that, you just got to keep going this week and see if you can keep up. Mario Rodriguez also says, do I start Archer or Diaby this week?
That's tough. I think I'd start Archer. I think he's actually got slightly better minutes.
Yeah.
And a better fixture.
Gamil says, hey chaps, would you start Nketiah or Darwin this week?
That's different. I mean, I would start Darwin. He's going to start. Well, actually, will he?
Don't say that on stream.
Do you know what? I wasn't even going to mention what I just said. I would say if we know Darwin's starting, I would go there.
Yeah, I would as well.
I don't love either this week for obvious reasons. It might even be one where Archer may be better.
I think Liverpool score against City, so I fancy Darwin to get some kind of attack and return.
If he starts.
Yeah. Do you bench Maguire or Gabriel, says Sokan?
I mean, I'm benching Maguire myself. It was tough, doesn't it? But Everton are better than we think. Yeah. Even though it's probably going too far the other way now, and we're making Everton out to be better than they are.
Be really good. Yeah, exactly. Madchester says, do I do Darwin to Solanke?
Well, do you know what? That's actually quite tough. I don't think I would, because after the City game, Liverpool got Fulham, Sheffield United, Palace.
Yeah, I don't think I would.
No.
I think
the fact we even paused.
Fixtures, I know.
It's interesting.
I think you get Darwin for the nice fixtures coming up. It's not just this week, is it? And you just have to ride out the City game. You never know, you could get a return anyway. Right, lovely stuff. We've done all right, mate. It's literally 9:01, so we've lasted an hour and 1 minute, which is not too bad. Chat, thank you so much for joining us. I think we peaked at about 400 people, which is not bad considering an England game's on. It's been the international break. Rich, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Hope you enjoyed yourself, my man.
Yeah, it was good. I'm really looking forward to this game week, even though the fixtures are bad. It'll be nice to... Yeah. I kind of missed it at the weekend.
I'm looking forward to the Christmas period. I love the Christmas period. And considering January is very, very slow, I think, for game weeks, I think end of November, December is going to be amazing.
We've got that Amazon midweek.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the Prime. You know when it's on Prime?
Prime weekend. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I remember me, you, and Irons, we were messaging in the group. This was years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
We were loving it. Do you remember I had that Bournemouth defender who scored?
Yes. I can't remember his name now, but I know we had Zaha. I know we were cursing Zaha and then he scored.
Was his name Rico as well? Was there a Rico?
It was. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Daniel Rico? Was that? No.
Yeah.
Something like that. But yeah, he scored, didn't he?
Yeah. No, see, vividly remember. Those Prime games are amazing. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah. Right. Someone in the chat said, like the stream. Yes, please, please, please like the stream. That would be absolutely lovely. Almost got 100 likes. Let's get to 100. Thank you so much for everybody. Hope your arrows agree moving forward. Rich, you're doing a few streams with Praz this week, and I'm doing one with Seb, hopefully on Friday for members only. So we hope
me and Praz are tomorrow, actually.
Tomorrow. There you go. So make sure you jump on with Rich. Is that like Deadline Dilemmas then? Or
it's Deadline Dilemmas. I think that's what it's going to be. Yeah, it'll be Deadline Dilemmas. Yeah. And it's at 9 p.m. UK time. So
nice.
This time right now, as we're ending.
I will be watching. Right. Thank you so much. Enjoy your week. And remember, reach out to us on Twitter if you have any questions. Thank you and bye-bye.